She watched soap operas with an old woman, having no idea she was the aunt of a billionaire who was about to fall for her. This sounds like a crazy clickbait headline, but it perfectly describes how my life was turned completely upside down in just 3 months. The truth is almost too unbelievable to be real. Me, Clara Evans, 28 years old, a pharmacist with a totally ordinary life in Charlotte, North Carolina. I never, ever imagined that one simple act of kindness would completely change my destiny. It all started on a random Tuesday afternoon. I decided to help an elderly woman who stumbled on the sidewalk in front of my apartment. I had no idea that Mrs. Beatrice was so much more than just an adorable old lady with a passion for daytime TV. "My dear, you saved me from a nasty fall," she said, holding my arm as I helped her up. Her blue eyes, surprisingly sharp for her 80-something years, sparkled with gratitude. "Can I offer you a coffee as a thank you?" I glanced at my watch. It was only 4:30 p.m. and my next shift at the pharmacy wasn't until the next day. "Why not?" "I'd love to, Mrs. Beatrice, but my apartment is a total mess. I just moved in." "Oh, then you must come to mine. I live right here in this building." She pointed to the neighboring high-rise, one of the most luxurious in all of Charlotte, the penthouse. My jaw dropped. That building was famous. The apartments there cost more than I would make in 10 years. Mrs. Beatrice noticed my shock and let out a little laugh. "Don't you worry, dear. I'm just a lonely old woman who would love some company." And that's how it began. What was supposed to be a one-time coffee turned into weekly visits. I quickly learned that Mrs. Beatrice was a widow with no children and an unshakable passion for dramatic soap operas. Every Tuesday, like clockwork, I'd go up to her luxurious apartment and we'd watch the latest episode of Tangled Hearts together. "Clara, you remind me so much of myself when I was young," she commented one afternoon as the show's star cried over some unrequited love. "Stubborn, independent, and completely blind to what's right in front of you." I laughed, not really getting the comment. "Mrs. Beatrice, are you saying I'm oblivious?" "I'm stating it as a fact, my dear." She smiled that enigmatic smile. "But life has a funny way of opening your eyes exactly when you need it to." It was on my 6th visit that Mrs. Beatrice announced something that would change everything. "My nephew is finally coming back to the States after years of living abroad. I'm hosting a dinner this Saturday to welcome him." "That's wonderful, Mrs. Beatrice. You must be so excited." "And you'll be coming, of course," she declared. It wasn't an invitation. It was a statement of fact. "Me? But it's a family event. I don't want to intrude." "Nonsense. You're like family to me already. Besides," her eyes twinkled with mischief, "he'll be staying for a while, running the family business here in Charlotte. He needs to meet people." I had no idea the family business was Monroe Pharmaceuticals, one of the largest drug companies in the country. And I had no idea the nephew in question was Raphael Monroe, the billionaire heir who, according to business magazines, had revolutionized the European pharmaceutical market in the last 5 years. So, with a mix of reluctance and curiosity, I accepted. I had no clue that 3 days later, I'd be face to face with the most infuriating, arrogant, and fascinatingly charming man I had ever met in my life. The worst part? The moment our eyes met at that elegant dinner, something strange happened. It was like, in some unexplainable way, I already knew him from somewhere, as if our destinies were tangled together long before that night. What I didn't know yet was that Raphael Monroe and I had actually met before, and that this reunion, meticulously orchestrated by Mrs. Beatrice, was just the beginning of a story that no soap opera could ever top. Mrs. Beatrice's apartment, usually an oasis of calm, was transformed. White and blue flowers decorated every corner. A catering staff moved discreetly, and the aroma of a 5-star banquet filled the air. I had spent the entire afternoon getting ready, trying on and discarding outfits, trying to look presentable without looking like I was trying too hard. When the doorbell rang, announcing the arrival of the famous nephew, I felt a strange pit in my stomach. The door opened, and there he was, Raphael Monroe in the flesh. Tall, broad-shouldered, in a perfectly tailored suit, dark, slightly wavy hair, and green eyes that seemed to analyze every detail around him. He was even more handsome than in the business magazines. Aunt Beatrice. His voice was deep, with a faint accent from his years in Europe. He hugged his aunt with genuine affection, handing her an elegant gift. "Raphael, my darling, it's so good to have you back." Mrs. Beatrice seemed to glow with joy. Then, with that mischievous spark in her eyes, she turned to me. "This is Clara Evans, my young friend I told you so much about." Raphael turned in my direction. For a split second, a look of recognition flashed across his face. It was so fast I thought I'd imagined it. It was immediately replaced by a mask of distant politeness as he extended his hand. "Ms. Evans, a pleasure." When our hands touched, I felt an electric current run up my spine. Suddenly, like a flash, a memory hit me. A sunny day, an excited crowd, the sound of a loudspeaker announcing raffle winners. "Have we met before?" I asked, unable to stop myself. His polite smile didn't reach his eyes. "I don't believe so. I think I'd remember." There was something in his tone that bothered me, as if he was deliberately denying something he knew was true. The dinner was awkward. Mrs. Beatrice kept the conversation flowing, telling stories about Raphael as a child, while he responded politely, but kept a calculated distance from me. His attention was clearly on his aunt, only occasionally glancing my way when he thought I wasn't looking. "And you, Clara? What do you do?" he finally asked when the silence between us became too much. "I'm a pharmacist. I work at the downtown Walgreens." For the first time, his interest seemed genuine. "Graduated from where?" "UNC, with a specialization in clinical pharmacology." Interesting." He took a sip of wine. "And why did you choose pharmacy?" "Because of my mom," I answered without thinking. "She passed away from cancer when I was a teenager. The medicine. It helped ease her suffering in the final stages. I wanted to do the same for other people." The silence that followed was different. For a moment, Raphael's mask dropped, and I saw a genuine empathy in his eyes. "I'm very sorry for your loss," he said softly. Mrs. Beatrice, who had been watching us like a hawk, smiled. "Raphael lost his parents in an accident when he was 20. It's why he dedicated himself so fiercely to the family business. A way to honor their legacy." I looked at him with new eyes. Maybe there was more to this distant CEO than I thought. The rest of the night flowed more easily. Raphael turned out to be an excellent storyteller, describing his adventures in Switzerland and France with a dry wit that made me laugh several times. When Mrs. Beatrice briefly stepped away to speak, with the staff about dessert, we were left alone for the first time. "I must confess," he said, lowering his voice, "my aunt talks about you constantly. Said you saved her." "That's her exaggerating. I just stopped her from falling on the sidewalk." A small gesture to you, perhaps, but for an 80-year-old woman, that could have meant a broken hip. Months of recovery. His green eyes studied me intently. "Thank you for looking after her when I couldn't be here." Something in his sincerity disarmed me. "She's a wonderful person. Our soap opera afternoons are the highlight of my week." He smiled. A real smile this time. "You're addicted to those dramatic soaps like my aunt?" "Totally," I confessed, laughing, though I pretend I'm only watching ironically. When Mrs. Beatrice returned carrying a splendid berry tart, something had shifted between Raphael and me. The initial tension had given way to a cautious truce. It was as I was leaving, thanking her for the wonderful night, that Mrs. Beatrice dropped her bomb. "Oh, I almost forgot. Raphael, Clara also won a ticket for that ridiculous promotion you sponsored before you left for Europe. The hot air balloon ride. You two should go together this weekend. The weather is supposed to be perfect." My blood ran cold. The hot air balloon ride, the promotion. Suddenly, it all made sense. 5 years ago, I'd won a hot air balloon ride in a local pharmacy promotion, a promotion I now realized was part of the Monroe Group. I'd never used the prize, partly for lack of company, and honestly, partly from a fear of heights. Raphael's face tensed. "Aunt, I have meetings." "Nonsense. I've already checked your calendar. Sunday is completely free." I looked at Raphael, finally understanding why he'd been so distant. He had recognized me from the very first moment. "You were there," I said, my voice barely a whisper, "at the raffle drawing. You were the one who announced the winners." For a second, I thought he'd deny it again, but then his shoulders slumped in defeat. "Yes, I was there, and you were different back then." Before I could ask what he meant, Mrs. Beatrice clapped her hands gleefully. "It's settled then. Sunday, 9 a.m. Raphael will pick you up, Clara." As I rode the elevator down to my modest apartment, my mind was racing. What had happened on the day of that raffle that made Raphael recognize me instantly, yet act like we'd never met? And what did he mean, "You were different"? I had no idea that the answer would completely change my perception, not only of Raphael Monroe, but of myself, and everything I thought I knew about my own past. Sunday arrived with an absurdly blue sky, as if the universe itself was backing Mrs. Beatrice's plan. I'd spent Saturday cycling between panic attacks and failed attempts to invent an excuse to cancel. The problem was, underneath all the anxiety was an unbearable curiosity. What really happened 5 years ago? At 8:55 a.m. on the dot, my doorbell rang. Raphael Monroe was at my door wearing dark jeans and a light blue shirt with the sleeves rolled up to his elbows. A much more relaxed version of the executive I'd met at dinner, he was holding 2 large coffees. "Figured you might need the caffeine," he said, handing one to me, "especially if you spent last night like I did, Googling the safety statistics of hot air balloons." I laughed, feeling some of the tension break. "Find any comforting data?" "Apparently, it's safer than driving. Still," he shrugged, "brought my updated will just in case." Very funny. I grabbed my bag and locked the door. Is your aunt always this? Manipulative? Intrusive? Sneakily strategic? He completed as we walked to the elevator. I was going to say determined, diplomatically. But yes, when Beatrice Monroe gets something in her head. He paused. "Look, about this ride, if you'd rather not go." "And disappoint your aunt? No way. She's probably got binoculars aimed at us right this second." Raphael instinctively glanced up. "You're absolutely right." The drive to the launch site outside Charlotte was surprisingly pleasant. Raphael was a great conversationalist when his guard was down. Then finally, he brought up the elephant in the room. "About that promotion day." I sat up, suddenly alert. "Yes, you said I was different." He drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. "You really don't remember?" "I remember winning the balloon ride. I vaguely remember an executive handing out certificates. That was you, obviously. But other than that," I shrugged. "It was 5 years ago." Raphael glanced at me as if judging my sincerity. "Have you had an accident in the last 5 years? Hit your head, maybe?" The question floored me. "What? No. Why?" Because the Clara Evans I met 5 years ago didn't just accept a certificate from me. She got up on that stage, took the microphone, and made a fiery speech, publicly criticizing Monroe Pharmaceuticals for our pricing policies, questioning our corporate ethics, and practically accusing me of profiting from human suffering. My jaw dropped. I did. What? It was quite memorable. He continued with a wry smile. You used the promotion mic to start a mini protest, called our campaign a distraction strategy to cover up predatory practices. Security tried to pull you off the stage, but I stopped them. I let you finish. I thought, you deserve to be heard. My mind was reeling. I had zero memory of this. How was that possible? Impossible, I muttered. I would never. I'm not the type of person who confronts a billionaire in front of hundreds of people. You were. His tone was challenging, which is why I was so shocked to see you at the dinner. You were so polite, tame, like a different person. I don't understand. My voice was shaky. I really don't remember any of this. Raphael looked genuinely concerned now. Clara, are you okay? You're pale. I wasn't okay. Fragments of memories were starting to bubble up. Shocked faces in the crowd, the weight of a microphone, a feeling of white-hot, righteous anger. But it felt like scenes from a movie, not my life. Pull over, I managed, feeling sick. He immediately pulled onto the shoulder of the road. I stumbled out, taking deep breaths. He followed me out. I'm sorry, he said. I shouldn't have just dropped that on you. It's not your fault. It's just, for the last few years, I've had these gaps, moments I can't remember clearly. My doctor said it was stress, maybe a mild dissociative disorder from the trauma of losing my mom, but I never thought I'd forgotten something like publicly confronting a CEO. Raphael studied me for a long moment before saying softly, "The medication that could have saved your mother. It was in the final trial phase at Monroe Pharmaceuticals at the time. We were too slow to launch it in the US market. That's what you told me on that stage." The world spun. It was true. An experimental drug. I'd researched it obsessively after she died. "What happened to me?" I whispered. "I don't know," Raphael answered honestly, "but I promise we'll figure it out." He held out his hand. "Still, want to go on this balloon ride, or do you want to go back?" I looked at his outstretched hand, then at the perfect sky. Suddenly, I felt a spark of determination, an echo of that fearless Clara from 5 years ago. "Let's go on the ride," I decided, taking his hand. "And you're going to tell me exactly what happened after that day. Every single detail." What I didn't expect was that floating hundreds of feet above Charlotte, I would discover that Raphael Monroe had spent the last 5 years of his life trying to fix the very mistake I had accused him of, and that my angry speech had been the catalyst for a transformation that would affect thousands of lives, including my own. There is something surreal about discussing your own forgotten past while floating in a wicker basket 1,000 feet off the ground. "After you finished your speech," Raphael continued, "everyone expected me to be furious, to have security throw you out. Instead, I asked for your contact information." "And I gave it to you?" "Not exactly. You handed me a crumpled business card with your email on it and said, quote, 'Only email me if you're going to discuss real solutions, not empty corporate apologies.'" You were fierce. A dormant part of me felt a flash of pride. "And you contacted me?" "That same day, I asked you to prepare a report detailing the medications you felt were a priority for wider access in the US, especially for oncology." He paused, watching my reaction. "You sent back a 47-page document, complete with cited sources, efficacy statistics, and cost of production estimates that were terrifyingly close to our internal numbers." "My God," I murmured. "That report," he said, moving a little closer, "became the foundation for my project in Europe. I spent the last 5 years building an entirely new division of Monroe Pharmaceuticals, focused on accessible medicine and subsidy programs for low-income patients." The impact of his words hit me. "You're saying my protest, it actually worked?" "It did more than that. It changed the direction of the company. It changed my life." His green eyes locked on mine. "Which is why I was so shocked to find you again as my aunt's soap opera buddy. The woman I knew was an activist ready to burn down pharmaceutical empires, not someone who patiently watches daytime TV with an old lady." "Maybe I can be both," I said, a little defensively. Raphael held up his hands in surrender. "Fair point. What I don't get is why you don't remember. And stranger still, why you never answered any of my emails after that first report." A switch flipped in my mind. "Wait, what emails?" "I sent several, thanking you, giving you updates on the changes we were implementing. When I got no response, I just assumed you'd moved on." A theory began to form, bizarre but plausible. "Raphael, when did you send those emails? What month? What year?" "It started around October 2019. Why?" I closed my eyes, the timeline snapping into place. "In November 2019, I had a nervous breakdown. It was the anniversary of my mom's death. I was hospitalized for 2 weeks. When I got home, my old computer had died. I lost everything. Shortly after that, I started having the dissociative episodes. My psychiatrist said my brain was protecting itself from painful memories." Raphael stared, processing it. "So you just forgot? Not just my emails, but the entire confrontation, your research, your activism?" "Apparently," I said, my voice shaking. "I remember the obsessive research, the anger, the helplessness, but after 2019, those memories all went blurry, like they belonged to someone else." The balloon shifted in a light breeze. We were silent for a moment, absorbing the sheer scale of it all. "I have something to show you when we get back on the ground," Raphael said finally. "I kept copies of everything." "Why? Why would you keep emails from some random protester who crashed your event?" Raphael looked away toward the horizon. "Because you were right about everything, and because..." He hesitated. "Because those 47 minutes you spent on stage, pointing your finger at my chest and calling me a predatory capitalist, were the most honest minutes anyone had spent with me since my parents died. My hand instinctively found his on the edge of the basket. I'm sorry, I forgot. Don't be, he said, his fingers lacing with mine. Maybe we can start over. No anger, no guilt. Just getting to know each other as we are now. And right at that moment, like a perfect cliche from one of Mrs. Beatrice's soaps, the balloon began to drop. Fast. The pilot, who had been discreetly giving us space, suddenly yelled, "Problem." "With the burner. Hold on. We're going in for an emergency landing." Raphael reacted instantly, pulling me into the center of the basket, wrapping his arms around me. "Get down! Head low!" The world became a blur. The ground rushed up. "Soybean field ahead!" the pilot yelled. "Brace for impact!" I squeezed my eyes shut, clinging to Raphael. I felt his arms tighten, his body shielding mine. The impact was violent. The basket scraped, bounced, and dragged for several yards before finally tipping over on its side. We lay there, a tangle of limbs, gasping, covered in dirt. "Are you okay?" Raphael's face was inches from mine, his green eyes filled with worry. And then, like a lightning strike, it all came back. Not just the promotion day, everything, every email I never read, every obsessive line of research, every sleepless night planning to confront the pharmaceutical giants. The Clara who had been asleep inside me woke up completely. "Raphael," I whispered, truly seeing him for the first time. "I remember." Before he could process my words, the pilot appeared above us. "Everyone intact?" "You're lucky. Rescue team is on the way." But I was barely listening. An avalanche of memories was filling in the 5-year gap, and at the center of it all was the man whose arms were still wrapped around me. "Raphael," I said, the words tumbling out. "The drug, MNTR 350, that's what you developed in Europe. Based on my report. The one that could have saved my mom." He nodded, stunned by my sudden clarity. "How?" "The impact," I said, trying to sit up. "It's like it unlocked something. I remember everything." Raphael helped me up, his expression shifting from concern to fascination. "Everything. I remember, after I sent you that report, I started getting threats. Anonymous emails. Strange phone calls. Someone didn't want that information getting out." Raphael's face hardened. "Threats? Why did you never tell me?" "I was going to. I was gathering evidence." And then I had the breakdown. I ran a hand through my hair. "My God, Raphael, what if it wasn't a coincidence? What if the trauma wasn't just my mom's anniversary? What if someone wanted to silence me?" Hours later, after being cleared from the local hospital with just bruises, Raphael insisted on taking me to his temporary apartment in Charlotte. "I'm not being paranoid," he said, keying a code into the door of a stunning penthouse. "If you were really threatened over that report, we need to find out who was behind it." The apartment was minimalist, elegant, and had that impersonal quality of a place rarely lived in. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city. "Whiskey?" he offered, heading to the kitchen. "Please. I think I've earned it." He returned with 2 glasses. "Okay," he said, sitting next to me on the sofa. "Let's organize what we know. You confronted me. You sent a detailed report. You started getting threats. And then you conveniently had a nervous breakdown and forgot everything. When you put it like that, it sounds like a conspiracy. The question is," he said, "who? Who benefited from keeping those drugs off the U.S. market, or at least keeping their prices sky high? Competitors?" I said. "Or someone inside Monroe?" Raphael's expression darkened. "There was internal resistance to my new accessible medicine division. The old CEO, Ottavio Sampaio, was particularly against shrinking our profit margins." "Where is he now?" "Forced retirement." That was the official story. The truth is, the board voted him out after I presented evidence that he was deliberately sabotaging the development of MNTR 350. My heart hammered. The drug that could have helped my mom? Exactly. Raphael put his glass down and faced me. "Clara, I need to show you something." He went to his desk and pulled out an external hard drive. "After you vanished online, I got worried. I hired a private investigator to find you." "You what?" "Not to spy," he clarified quickly, "just to make sure you were okay. He found you working at the Walgreens, living a quiet life. He reported you seemed different, calmer, less on fire. Tame, I repeated his word from the balloon. Different, he insisted, like a part of you was missing. He opened a folder on his laptop. It's all here. Our emails, your original report, and he clicked a subfolder. What the investigator found on Ottavio Sampaio. The next few hours were a deep dive into a corporate thriller. We discovered Sampaio had secret ties to a rival company, Biocorp America, which had a similar, less effective, and far more expensive drug on the market. Keeping Monroe's drug tangled in red tape directly benefited Biocorp. But that doesn't explain why I was the target, I said. How did I even find out about MNTR 350 to begin with? I closed my eyes, searching the new memories. My advisor, my specialization advisor at UNC, Dr. Helena Matos. She mentioned a research paper. Raphael went rigid. Dr. Helena Matos? Yes, why? His face was pale. Because she was a paid consultant for Biocorp America, and she was in constant contact with Ottavio Sampaio. The realization hit me like a physical blow. My own advisor, she used me to find out what Monroe was developing. And when I turned on you publicly, I became a liability. My report proved I knew too much. They must have orchestrated the threats, Raphael said, his voice tense, hoping to scare you into silence. Your breakdown was just a lucky bonus for them. I stood up, walking to the window. How could they? How many people could have been saved? Thousands, Raphael said softly, joining me. It's why I spent 5 years making sure MNTR 350 got made and made affordably. I turned to face him. You really did it. You changed everything because of me. I changed everything because you had the courage to tell me the truth. The moment stretched. This was more than a conspiracy. It was personal. So what now? I asked. Now, Raphael said, his jaw set, we confront them. I have enough evidence for a formal investigation, but I don't care if it's dangerous. I interrupted. I already lost 5 years of my life because of them. I'm not hiding now. A slow smile spread across Raphael's face. There she is. The fierce Clara who stormed my stage. She just took a nap, I replied, feeling a confidence I hadn't felt in years. As if on cue, Raphael's phone rang. The caller ID made us both freeze. Aunt Beatrice. He put it on speaker. Aunt Beatrice? Is everything okay? Wonderful, dear. Her cheerful voice chirped. Just calling to see how the balloon ride went. Did you two have fun? Raphael and I locked eyes. It was illuminating, Aunt, Raphael said carefully. We had a small accident, but we're fine. An accident? Her voice was sharp with real concern. Just some bruises, I assured her. Oh, thank heavens. Well, you must come for dinner tomorrow. I want to hear all the details. After he hung up, I realized something. Raphael, your aunt, she knew exactly where to find my 5-year-old balloon voucher. She pushed us together. After years of not bothering you, she suddenly insists you come to Charlotte. Understanding dawned in his eyes. You think she knew about our first meeting? Raphael paused. She's on the Monroe board. She was there when I presented the new division. Based on your report, and his eyes went wide. It was her who first raised suspicions about Ottavio Sampaio. My jaw dropped. Your 80-year-old soap opera watching aunt is a corporate mastermind. Let's just say, Raphael said with a slow smile, she isn't just a sweet old lady. Beatrice Monroe helped build half that empire while everyone underestimated her. I collapsed onto the sofa. So all this time, our afternoons watching Tangled Hearts, she was vetting me, trying to figure out what happened to the fierce pharmacist who inspired her favorite nephew. We were completely played. Raphael laughed, sitting beside me. His expression turned serious. But the question remains. What now? I looked at the computer screen, at the evidence. First, I said, we expose the truth. We make sure MNTR 350 helps every single person who needs it. We turn this into something bigger than us. Raphael nodded, his eyes shining. And after that, I said, a smile forming, we have dinner with your manipulative aunt. And we ask her exactly how long she's been planning this. He laughed. And then he leaned in and kissed me. When he pulled back, his eyes were searching mine. Was this part of her plan too? I whispered. Probably, he admitted. But this part? This was all me. 6 months later. Are you sure you don't want to come in? Mrs. Beatrice smiled that enigmatic way of hers. We were standing at the entrance of the new Monroe Oncology Research Center in downtown Charlotte. My dear, this is your moment, she said, adjusting her hat. Besides, the cameras make me nervous. I rolled my eyes. Nervous? You? The woman who orchestrated a CEO's takedown using a few phone calls and her bridge club? Exaggerations, Clara. The truth, I retorted fondly. You're late. That handsome reporter from the local news is waiting. Are you pushing another man on me, Beatrice? Raphael would be devastated. Raphael will survive, she winked. Now go. Turn this scandal into something positive. Just as you two planned, I took a deep breath and walked inside. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind. Sampio and the Biocorp execs were facing criminal charges. My ex-advisor had taken a plea deal. But today wasn't about the scandal. It was about the solution. I spotted Raphael on the stage. Our eyes met and he smiled. My phone vibrated. A text from him. Your future aunt-in-law is at it again. Just saw the dedication plaque. She accidentally listed you as Dr. Clara Evans Monroe. Subtle, right? I laughed, pocketing the phone. Typical Beatrice. When I stepped up to the podium, the cameras focused and I had a flash of déjà vu. 5 years ago, I'd grabbed a microphone to confront a CEO. This time, I wasn't driven by anger. I was driven by hope. 5 years ago, I began, my voice clear. I was consumed by anger after losing my mother to a cancer that could have been treated, by medicine that existed but wasn't available to ordinary people. Today, I am here to announce that this will never happen to another family, in our state again. In the front row, Raphael watched me with pride. In the back, I could just make out Mrs. Beatrice, who had apparently changed her mind about the cameras. The Monroe Oncology Center, I continued, isn't just a building. It's a promise that healthcare will no longer be a privilege, but a right. As I spoke, I thought about the journey, a soap opera with an old lady, a balloon crash that unlocked my past, and a man who turned my anger into purpose. Who could have predicted it? At the end of the ceremony, Raphael found me by the window. So, he said, lacing his fingers with mine, what do you think of Clara Evans Monroe? I think your aunt is very presumptuous. She's also usually right, he replied, his green eyes dancing. She saw our story before we even started living it. Well, I said, leaning in, maybe we shouldn't disappoint her. Oh, we won't, Raphael smiled. I think we've both learned that lesson. And as we kissed, I couldn't help but think that some stories really are better than the soaps, especially the ones orchestrated by cunning old ladies who know exactly what they're doing. After all, as Mrs. Beatrice would say, the best plots are the ones you never see coming.